Hello again, I'm Doug Smith for another edition of Portsmouth This Week, the voice of Portsmouth Town Hall. Our guests today are Ana Riley, a new superintendent of schools in Portsmouth, and Terri Cortvriend, the new Portsmouth School Committee president and an old friend. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Ana, really, welcome to our town here. We're delighted you've come. You've come from, you got a great track record up there in Dartmouth. And you came here probably, I would think this is the busiest time of the year. You guys correct me if I'm wrong.
Absolutely.
Getting ready for school and then starting the first couple of days. Those are always the most chaotic for me when I was a kid, at least. How has Terri and her school committee been treating you since you've been here? You've only been here, what, a month?
Well, just a little over a month.
Yeah.
It's been wonderful. The school committee actually put together a transition subcommittee so that I have a small group of school committee members who have been helping me by setting up interviews with folks so that I can meet all of the local important folks to know, people to build relationships with. We have a regular meeting where we go over what my goals will be and what the process will be as we move into kind of a 90-day plan as to how to get acclimated to the Portsmouth Public Schools. But they've been very supportive.
Yeah, well, that's great. Keep it up.
Okay, we will.
The schools are probably one of the most important things we have here in Portsmouth. I was a Navy guy. I could have lived anywhere. I was at the station at the War College. I could have lived anywhere, but I came to Portsmouth because the schools were better than any place else. And I still think that's the case, but I think that shows you how important it is to everything we do. The quality of our schools is super important from an economic standpoint across the board. Can you tell us a little about your personal background? I know you're kind of a homegrown local lady here right across the bridge here in Fall River.
That's right.
Could you tell us a little about your background?
Absolutely. So I started my career in Fall River as a middle school science teacher. It wasn't a field that I was interested in when I was in college. I graduated from Regis College in Weston, Massachusetts with a degree in chemistry.
Okay.
And really had no interest in being a school teacher. But many of the jobs for a chemistry major were outside of Boston. I had a wonderful job offer from the U.S. Department of Energy in Tennessee. And I thought, gee, I'm not ready to move that far away from my family. And I had just gotten married, and my mother-in-law was very good friends with the principal of a private school. And she said, you know, they're always desperate for substitute teachers. Why don't you try that? Keep yourself busy. Yeah. And I thought, oh, all right, I'll do that. And I fell in love.
Is it fun?
I was there substituting for a teacher who was ill for a week, and at the end of that week, I didn't want to leave. And the principal said, well, we'd love for you to stay. There's always something to be done. And I had minored in Spanish. I'm bilingual. I am a first-generation American, so I speak fluent Portuguese. And so, of course, my parents wouldn't let me take Portuguese, so I took Spanish, and so I ended up minoring in Spanish in college. And the school thought it would be an excellent enrichment to bring Spanish to their school. So they wanted to keep me too, and I'm grateful because it kept me excited about teaching. And so after being there for a year teaching Spanish to grades 4 through 8, the principal offered me a full-time teaching position. And like I say, the rest is history. So I taught middle school science in that private school for about 6 years, and then I went to the public schools where I got to really do what I loved, which is teach chemistry at the high school level. That was a lot of fun. And then one of my other passions is really working with at-risk students. So I left Durfee High School to teach at their alternative site, where I was able to teach students biology, chemistry, and physics. I got to do all the sciences, but it was a wonderful experience. Then I got into the administration track, and I have to say it really came out of a feeling of wanting to do more for students. So as a teacher, your scope is your classroom, and for me there was a passion to do something beyond that. So I became an administrator at the elementary level, which at first seemed quite foreign to me because I had never taught at the elementary level. And it was an amazing learning experience. I had a wonderful principal mentor and learned so much at that elementary level. And then I became a middle school principal, which was my forte and probably one of my favorite positions. And I thought I really wanted to do more. And I needed to find a way to increase the scope of support for students. And so I started looking at central office positions, and a position in Dartmouth opened. And then I spent the last 6 wonderful years as the assistant superintendent in Dartmouth. And I'm grateful that I have loved every job that I've had to date, and it's been an opportunity to support students, and really that's really what I feel my passion is. Although if you would have asked me when I was in college, I never would have been able to articulate it. So I sympathize with kids who aren't really sure what they want to do. Sometimes you have to just let it come to you.
Yeah, I'll tell you my story afterwards, because it's got some interesting points here. I was a chem minor, zoology major, which shows you I didn't get into that at all. But at any rate, it sounds to me like your background, and this was all right here in Fall River.
Absolutely.
In the Fall River area. That's great.
Yeah.
So how often did you cross the bridge to come to Aquidneck Island, this foreign country over here?
Well, it's funny because one of my the first week that I was here, people kept referring it to as the island, and I have to say, not living here, no one else calls it the island. So I thought that was it was kind of a very it was a funny thing to me to keep hearing it referred to, and I thought, oh, it's Aquidneck Island. That's why everyone calls it the island.
It's the island. It's the
I love
island.
it. I love it. It's great. But actually, it's so close. I come here often. I've spent lots of time in Portsmouth, Middletown, Newport, of course. For Fall River, really Providence and Rhode Island is where the hub of the action is. It's not really, Boston's probably just a little too far, and Providence is so close that I've spent a lot of time.
We'd like to think that Portsmouth is the center of the universe, but it isn't. I know that. I notice you're enrolled in a educational leadership doctoral program. Where is that located?
So I am a student of Nova Southeastern University, which is in Florida. And actually, I've completed the program of studies. So I have completed all the coursework. I'm what they call ABD, all but dissertation.
Okay.
So that's the state that I'm in.
You're going to find that's the hard part.
Yes, I've been in it for a little while now. So it is something that I do want to accomplish. It's my mother has always been an inspiration around completing. She didn't get to go to college, and all she wanted for her children was a college degree. And so when I graduated from college, and then when I got my master's, when I told her I was enrolling in a doctorate program, she was just, so proud. And so she reminds me regularly that I need to wrap that up.
Believe me, there are so many people. I was in a PhD program at Salve. There are so many people that take all the coursework.
Right.
And it's so hard to get started and to do a dissertation that they give up. And so I felt the same way. I went ahead and got my PhD from Salve. But the dissertation was the hardest part, so keep it up.
I am. I keep finding, I think sometimes it's easy to make excuses, but I like to think I had a couple of good ones. So I finished my coursework, and then I was expecting my son Seamus, who's our youngest, who's 4. So he was my excuse for at least a year. I said that buys me at least a year of
Well, now you get a new job.
And then I became superintendent in Dartmouth, and now I'm a super. But it's definitely a goal of mine to complete. So I have not abandoned it.
I think that's great. Terri, I assume that you had a lot to do with bringing Ana here, and I just wonder what kind of specific qualities you guys, we have kind of a weird history here in Portsmouth of superintendents, and we really, you guys on the school committee know exactly what we really need. What were some of the qualities that you saw in Ana here?
Well, we had 4 things that we were looking for, the search committee. We were looking for experience. We were looking for a strong communicator, somebody that could communicate to all the constituencies in town, school committee, town council, teachers, unions, all the above, everybody. And then we were also looking for somebody that could bring the system, move the system forward. So when we met Ana, she had the experience we were looking for, so we liked the way she presented herself. She's very, very talkative and chatty, and we liked that. She was easy to understand, so we thought we could form a good rapport, and we really liked her focus on children. That came out in the interviews that we had. Everything got rolled back to kids, and for me personally, that was one of the things that I really liked.
I think we tend to lose sight of that, don't we?
Sometimes we do.
With all the other things going on.
Yes, all the other things. Yes.
I just wondered, you were the superintendent, the assistant, and then the superintendent at Dartmouth for 6 years. How big is Dartmouth compared to Portsmouth as far as the school,
It's about 1,000 students larger. So the student population was just under 4,000, and they're at about 35,000 is the population in Dartmouth. So just probably about a third larger than
Yeah,
Portsmouth.
that's probably about right. I guess we're about, what, 20,000, 18, something like that?
Yeah.
People, population. What were some of the highlights of your tenure there? Obviously, you enjoyed the heck out of it, which is a great
absolutely. It had it was a system definitely, I believe, on the rise with lots of opportunities for success. We went to full-day kindergarten there, similar to Portsmouth, or just a little ahead. So we were rolling in, like everyone else, the Common Core, and so I was able to be part of that, the implementation of Common Core. We brought instructional coaching into the district, which was something that I saw very successful in Fall River, and I thought would really be an opportunity to bring Dartmouth to another level. Instructional coaching, for folks who don't have a clear understanding of what that is the idea of hiring expert teachers to work with staff on a daily basis. So that professional development isn't the one-day conference or one-day workshop that
Right.
teachers attend, that sometimes is right on and you can bring some things back, and sometimes you get there and you think, oh, this isn't exactly right for my classroom. The idea of an instructional coach is that professional development is ongoing, it's embedded in the school day, and allows us to improve our craft on a regular basis. And really, the number one factor, as indicated by all the research on student success, is the teacher in the classroom. And so we have to support teachers in the classroom. And for me, instructional coaching was a way to do that. So when I got to Dartmouth, there were no instructional coaches, and when I left in June, we had 20 instructional coaches from K to 12, and I really believe that that was a part of the success.
So obviously
formula.
the teachers also thought that was very valuable.
Absolutely,
as well.
absolutely. It is. It's a very strong trust relationship among teachers, and they're able to have those professional discourse and have those dialogues that allow them to make themselves vulnerable and share concerns or strengths and weaknesses that they want some help with. And those relationships are what lead to those powerful conversations that improve learning.
Yeah, nobody likes to hear about their weaknesses.
No,
for sure.
it takes a very strong relationship and trust factor for folks to be willing to put themselves out there and really put that on the table.
But I think the key, it goes back to the kids. What's good for the kids, and what's good is you can learn from the best, and have new ways of getting points and things across. What brought you to Portsmouth? Why did you consider Portsmouth?
I think if you were, I spent
kind of two sides of the coin here: the school committee and you.
Absolutely. So I spent, as you can see, a lot of my career in Fall River, but it was a very varied career. I had spent time in different roles. So I'm never a person who likes getting comfortable. I like challenge. I like new things. I appreciate change. I think it's what helps us grow as individuals. And so I was ready for a change. Portsmouth presented itself. It was very much a position of opportunity for me. It's very local for me. I think I have 6 children, so it's important to me to maintain the opportunity to be able to stay involved in their lives, which means not working too far from home. And it is one of those districts that I see as being on the edge. It's a good district, but we can be great.
I hope you talk about some of this stuff with your kids, because what's the oldest?
I have a 20-year-old
okay.
who's a junior at the University of Miami.
Okay, all the way down to 4 years old?
All the way down to 4.
Well, you got a built-in kind of a peer group there to talk to about some of these things and see what they think about it.
I always say it provides me with a very powerful context for talking to parents. When parents call you and they're upset because their child's at the middle school or at the high school. And I say, yes, I have one of those at home, and I know what you mean.
That's right.
And it's a parent's job to always advocate for their child. And I always say that sometimes parents call me and they're very upset about a situation, and then they get it all out, and then many parents will say, I'm sorry to seem so angry. And I always say, no, this is your job. It's your responsibility to be the best advocate you can be for your child. And then I have to balance that with the other 2,800 students here in Portsmouth.
Yeah, and actually anymore today, you'd like parents who are really into their
Absolutely.
kids' education. I think that's probably another important thing in addition to the teachers, is what they get at home or not. One of the things that I noticed in a press release that came out about a week or two ago was the issues of, and you touched on it here, building trust and transparency. Mm-hmm. That's a particularly an interesting issue here in Portsmouth. We have sort of a very New England mentality in Portsmouth.
Yeah.
And I certainly agree totally, particularly in areas like the budget, but not just the budget, the whole, everything to do with education. Mm-hmm. How do you think we can accomplish this thing? Or do you have, again, you're coming in, you're just getting an idea here, but how did you do it in Dartmouth?
So Dartmouth is also a very New England town, very conservative, and did not always have the best relationship between the school and the town departments, but that had improved over the time that, not just when I was superintendent, but with the previous superintendent in Dartmouth. But we worked very hard the last 3 years to build a budget that was not only transparent, because I believe the budget here, they've done a very good job of making it very transparent, but it's about transparency and about being able to explain it to the community in ways that folks at various degrees of interest can really understand. And so we built a budget in Dartmouth that really went from a very macro level, here are the big ideas. Here's what we're using our money for. Here's why we need this money. And here's what we hope the outcomes will be, all targeted around student achievement. Down to the micro level for those folks who really just like to see all the dollars and cents. Where do they go? How do we spend it? And what's that return on investment? And that's the addition that I hope I can bring to Portsmouth is, so what will this investment bring to the town of Portsmouth? What are the goals around the money that we're spending? And I think that's the next level of transparency, because we're transparent. Our budget's on the web. You can go up and pull down all that information, but it's explaining to folks why the money is necessary and what the outcome for students is based on that money. I think that's the next step.
Yeah, I think one day I'd like to have the president of the school committee and the president of the town council sitting in here together, talking about the town budget, because that's the one that affects me, the resident.
Sure.
Right. And it'd be nice if we had that kind of, synchronicity here going forward. It's something.
We did take the step last year, this school committee, to put together a 5-year plan too, because we feel that it's very important so that we can plan further out and kind of have an idea of what we might be receiving from the town, and then the town could have an idea of what we're going to be asking.
I think it definitely works both ways.
And so that we've been pushing this 5-year plan, and we talked about it at numerous workshops last year with the town council, and I'm sure we will continue that conversation as we move forward, so that we, can kind of, instead of it always being a little bit of the roll of the dice when we go, when we go before the town
there's no
council.
reason why not, I think.
Right.
And I think it's so important that people see this, just the connection,
Sure.
This brings me to an area, I got several areas of my kind of pet peeves or my favorite subjects. One of them is technology.
Okay.
I mean, technology it's so important, and yet it's changing so quickly. And how do we keep our kids so that when they graduate from the high school, they're competitive? I taught in an MBA program at Johnson & Wales, and the kids there thought, oh, I'm getting an MBA, that'll be great. This is the end of, I'll never have to. I said, no. I said, look around. We had 60% of our students were international. I said, look around. That's the competition. These are kids that are working hard. Mm-hmm. They're working hard, and they're not just looking for an MBA. They're looking to be CEO of a company. They want, we got to get our kids into the competition mode, I think, and we need to give them the tools to do that. I'm amazed when people say, we have a lot of jobs in Rhode Island that go wanting because kids aren't technologically capable of doing it. Mm-hmm. So what can we do about that? What can we do about technology? Big question.
Absolutely. And I'm not sure I'm ready to give you the full answer on that.
I understand.
One of the things that I do know about Portsmouth is we have a solid infrastructure and we have a lot of technology in the buildings. So the next step for me will be measuring what the integration of that looks like, because that's the piece that you're talking about. So every student we've got in our school today, they're all technology natives. It's all they've ever known. They're digital natives. Yeah. They've had it in their possession their whole lives. I'm not a digital native. Obviously, I'm a little older than the kiddos at school, but I love technology. And what I find is every new device, every upgrade requires more instruction. You never know it. You can't ever say, well, this is good, I'll never have to study that again, because things are ever changing. And when they talk about careers, the typical college senior will work 5 jobs in the next in their first 10 years of their career, because the job market is changing in such a manner to adapt to the technology and the competition in the field. So we can no longer, those jobs don't exist anymore where we say, you know, I'm going to do this and hopefully I'll be loyal to this company and I'll be able to sit here and retire from this. It doesn't exist anymore. No. And so we have to prepare students for that, and that's the competition factor, but the tech integration is a way that we can support students in being ready for those opportunities. But it's got to keep going. It doesn't end with us. All we're doing is laying foundation, because the universities have to do it and then they have to continue doing it. So what we need to do is, just like we have to build study skills for students so that they know how to prepare for academics, we have to build those technology skills so they have the foundation to be prepared for the changing, because it's going to continue to change. Yeah. We have to keep adapting and integrating it into the work that we're doing so that they always have the foundation of the previous cycle.
Yeah, I think it's vitally important. Let me give you one example that I think is just really cool. For some, you know, I'm an old guy. I'm much older than you. But I'm fascinated with technology as well. But it's something you're constantly trying to figure out, how does this work and how do I do this? I have a friend that teaches 4th grade in Oregon. It's a private school, but her students in 4th grade were learning how to make apps for cell phones. And I'm saying, what? You know, the thing is, how can we get that kind of hands-on kind of stuff into our curriculum, which is already crammed with several zillion other things that are required? I mean, how do we do this stuff?
So Doug, I know you're very interested in the Common Core, and we want to have a future discussion on that. But the Common Core encourages that kind of learning, because the Common Core is really just the framework, the standards that we have to teach. How we teach them is really up to us. And so it's providing our teachers with enough instruction and support so that they have the technology skills to be able to introduce that to their class and integrate it into the work they're doing to teach the Common Core. So I think there are lots of opportunities for that. We just have to make sure that our teachers are supported with the professional development, because most of the teachers, although there are quite a few teachers who are much younger than I am now when I look around, and some of them are digital natives, but we have to make sure that they all have those skills to bring them into the classroom.
Well, that's a good thing. It means you live longer.
I know, I know. But there are so many opportunities with technology, and I think that's what I think teachers appreciate, is they can bring their classrooms to a whole other level using technology.
Well, I'll tell you, as you know, as a teacher, one of the things that when the light bulb goes on in that kid's mind, and all of a sudden you've got them engaged, and it's like it really is like, you can tell. And it's such a great feeling, because you had something to do with that. You know, and then the kid starts out questioning you that you don't know the answers to. That's okay. That's
absolutely.
Good stuff. And maybe this relates to my next topic, which is the subject of financial literacy. I buttonhole everybody that comes on this program that has a vague relation to this. Just because I think our kids, starting with my kids, really need some kind of idea of what does a credit report mean? How do you use a credit card? How about banks? How about mortgages? All this kind of stuff. And when I say kids, my kids are 40 years old, and they still have a vague idea about how this stuff works. What can we do about something like that? And again, I realize our curriculum is filled with stuff. And I guess one of the things that there's an impression, at least, maybe it's wrong, that the part of the Common Core means that you have to teach kind of to a test, and so you're limited in what you can do in the classroom. Maybe that's not the case. I don't know.
I think there's nothing further from the truth. I don't think the Common Core does pigeonhole us. It's really built as a staircase of knowledge on how we can continue to increase on the information that students learn. And I think there is a place for financial literacy in that. The strategic plan that Portsmouth has includes financial literacy and how we can put together a plan to get that into the hands of our students. One of the experiences that I had in Dartmouth and that my children had as high school students in Fall River is a program called Reality Day. It's purely run by volunteers, so Doug, I'll put that as a challenge to you on the air to organize some volunteers. But if you Google their website, it's an absolutely fabulous exercise. It's a simulation for students that involves some pre-work. They fill out some questionnaires where they select the areas of interest and get guided into a career. On the day that they have their Reality Day challenge, they're assigned a career and a salary, and they have to go out and find housing and buy a car and buy furniture. And at the end of that Reality Day, it is fabulous to listen to the conversations that kids are having. And I'll even bring that back to my own children when they come home and they say, well, how much do you pay for this house? What's the rent here? What's the mortgage? They don't have a real understanding of that. Yeah. And I remember my daughter saying, well, some kids were buying brand new cars, and then they were going to have no money left to pay for food and rent. And it was just...
Isn't that great?
It was, it was fabulous. The level of discourse that it brought back to the kitchen table that we could have with our own kids was fabulous. But they were having them with each other all around. You know, we held it in the gym at Dartmouth.
And
it was fabulous.
I have to tell you, I may take you up on this.
Absolutely,
because it sounds like
I love
something
it.
that I got the group of guys that could do this.
Yeah,
and,
you do.
This would be really cool.
They brought in a lot of community volunteers. Banks volunteered their time to be the banks at Reality Day. And folks from the Realtors Association came in and ran the housing market. So it's really a fabulous program. So I would love that.
Good.
I think that would be
and
great.
I'll talk to you later about the details of this, but I think it sounds fascinating. The other thing that I'd like to see more of in our schools, I was recently over in England, Portsmouth, England, our namesake city, for their D-Day celebration, 70th anniversary of D-Day. Most of these vets are in their 90s, so this is probably going to be close to the last one of those they're going to be at. But they had this D-Day museum right in the waterfront in Portsmouth, and in the museum were a bunch of little pages of experiences by these D-Day people. You know, just one page, like a one-page blurb. It was all done by students. And I don't mean just high school. I mean, it was all the way down to the elementary school level, where they went out and did oral histories of all these older folks. And I just thought, what a great thing. I mean, just what a great thing to do for the community. And the thing is, I guess what I'm seeing or hearing from the schools that we don't have time for that anymore. We can't do that or something. And maybe that's the case. But is there an opportunity for some kind of outside of the classroom stuff, or how would we get something like that done?
So I think there probably are opportunities to do that. So we have world history classes, but we also teach world history. That's a K-12 that's wrapped into the curriculum. And the idea of nonfiction is a very high priority in the Common Core. So those opportunities could be brought in as part of the standards. It takes a teacher's creative planning to do that and opportunities, so we'd have to seek out those folks. Again, it's certainly a valuable exercise, and I think there are opportunities even within the classroom that we could do.
Well, I can help you about finding the folks, because in November there's going to be a Vietnam Veterans Appreciation Day here in Portsmouth for Vietnam vets, and it's being organized by the VFW and the American Legion Post 18, both here in Portsmouth.
And they would like to use our high school auditorium. I learned that yesterday.
Because they're hoping for a big crowd, because we probably have a lot more Vietnam vets than we have of just about any other kind. And so I'll be happy to help work on stuff like that. Just one thing, we're almost out of time, but I got to throw a pitch in for Rose Escobar. She's one of your high school arts teachers, and she did a program. We have this thing called the Portsmouth Atlantic Compact, which is the 4 Portsmouths on the Atlantic: New Hampshire, Virginia, UK, and us. And we're trying to get us all to do things together, and she came up with the first program to do an arts project with a high school in Portsmouth, the UK, that went very well. Wow. Would you support stuff like that going forward?
Of course, I think that's fabulous.
Okay, because I'd like to expand on this, but we're out of time. Ana, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
And Terri, as always, I'd like to invite either one of you guys to come back on any time you want and talk about some of this stuff. It's fascinating.
Thank you.
That's it for me, Doug Smith. See you in the next edition of Portsmouth This Week.